I love that you say that because I feel like you are describing the mosaic that's over my shoulder that sits behind me in my office. This mosaic that I pieced together is comprised of broken pieces of what was called wire glass. And in the 1950s, it was used in schools. You know that glass that has the wires in the middle that's supposed to make the glass that much safer and more secure? It turns out it didn't actually do that. But to me, that is a visual representation of my obligation to keep schools safe. And I found all those pieces of glass, I pieced them back together, and they're so very meaningful to me because not only do I live my life in this world, but this is just a visual representation that whenever I forget, I can look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's my why.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of, whether they're business owners or high performing professionals, we tend to overwork and there's a reason. And if we figure out what that reason is, then we can start saying no, like you said, and then we can redirect and utilize those gifts, whatever's trying to come out of us in a completely different way that is transformative and useful, but not draining, and it takes a lot of self-reflection to do that. Welcome to the Resilient Minds podcast, stories of grit, growth, and success, where we dive deep into the journey of successful leaders who've struggled and succeeded. Before the wins, before the titles, what was the mindset behind the leader? On this show, we focus on real stories behind the success, the struggles, the resilience, and the courage it takes to keep moving forward, even when times get tough. My goal is to provide you with stories of hope and transformation, showing that no matter the challenges, there is a way forward. On this show, we'll be meeting with highly successful leaders who've battled through obstacles, emerging stronger and wiser on the other side. This show is for anyone who wants to grow, evolve, and find the light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone's a leader. So together, we'll uncover what it truly means to evolve as leaders, and ultimately, as human beings. This is Resilient Minds.
Yeah, sure.
I'm your host, Dr. Campbell, and I'm here with Dr. Beth Sanborn, and she is a school safety coordinator. She's the president of the Pennsylvania Association of School Resource Officers, and she has dedicated her career and now her life to student success and safety. And so I could not imagine, because she just moved into the public speaking sector to advocate for this, the kind of pressure that is on you bringing awareness to the safety of our students with all the shootings, and there's so much that's going on. That's a lot for you to handle. Thank you, Beth, for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. I love any opportunity where I get to share my passion to help kiddos succeed and keep them safe.
Yeah, what brought you into this kind of work?
I had no idea. I had no idea what a school resource officer even was. I had been a police officer for 18 years before my lieutenant ever broached the idea, the suggestion that the school district was thinking about starting this position. And he thought it would be a really great fit for my personality and great for the school district and great for our police department. And, plus the hours were Monday to Friday, 7 to 3. So that was a bit of an appeal as well. But it wasn't until I assumed that role that I realized that's where I could do the most good for my community and for my kiddos, because I was able to have a positive impact with every single interaction that I made.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you see probably more than parents sometimes because you see so many kiddos, how a lot of, mental health issues and behavior issues, it goes back to emotions, and all that is in the school system.
Absolutely. When I first walked in as a uniformed police officer, you can imagine the skepticism. I mean, folks didn't want to talk to me and they wanted to know why I was there. And then there was just the assumption that it must be such a crime-ridden building and district that that's why they needed police. But it wasn't until I was there for a little while and they realized how I was trained and what my ideology was, and that I was very carefully chosen and I was very specifically trained and properly equipped to be able to work as a mentor and counselor, to be able to be a public safety educator, as well as that law enforcement officer, to truly keep my kiddos safe from a holistic standpoint.
Yeah. Have you ever had anything really difficult in the school system that you had to deal with?
Yes, every day.
Yeah.
Kiddos' crises are their crises in that moment. So while ever the perception is that we have to worry about school shootings and bullying and online activity and drugs and alcohol and all the other pitfalls, all the other dangers that our kiddos face. But you know what? Sometimes they have difficulties with relationships,
Yeah.
the male and female. Sometimes they have difficulties with achievements, with test grades, with making the team, with getting into college, being asked out on the date, getting into a car accident. There are so many crises that our kiddos are facing. So
Mm.
they may come in crying, they may come in exasperated, they may feel as if their cup is overflowing. And what my role is was not to criminalize every single misbehavior that occurred, but to help support and to help our kiddos develop good coping skills so they could handle adversity like young adults, so that they could deal with social conflict without resulting to fighting. It's truly amazing what our kiddos can achieve when they have those protective barriers put into place so that they can really truly grow into themselves.
Right. So I actually work with a lot of business owners and senior executives, and it's extremely taxing on them, right? So a lot of times we have to work on the same thing: emotional regulation, containment, self-care, self-reflection, to be able to develop those skills. So what you're doing is working with the kiddos in the school system, and then of course the teachers, because that's extra responsibility on them. They're just naturally mentors. And so then there's other individuals on the outside helping the parents, right? And so I'm just one of those individuals. There's so many others, but there has to be that middle ground where we bring on the parental coaching, right, so to speak, or parental classes, education, and teach parents how to deal with children's emotions, right? Have you ever seen those situations?
It's tough. I mean, you're learning a new skill set. And listen, many of us as parents will share the same joke. Nobody ever gave us a manual to know what to expect. And the reality is that what works for one kid in one situation may not work for that same kid in a different situation, or may not work for a different kiddo. So we as the adults have to set our egos aside and realize that every so often we may not have the answer.
Yeah.
But it's important to know that we have to be able to find the answer or step aside and realize that we may not be the person in that moment.
Right.
It's difficult, but to understand that we in the school environment and in the community and in this public safety realm, that we're part of the team. We all want the same goal and the same outcome for our kiddos: healthy, successful, productive kids, a safe environment, a safe community, and a productive, healthy one as well.
Right. Absolutely. What would you say in your career, and this is personally or professionally, what has been the hardest thing that you've had to overcome?
Saying no.
Yeah.
I I don't say no enough. I have difficulty with boundaries in that I tend to give my all the time. When I was school resource officer, one of the ways that I built rapport with my kiddos was that I gave anyone and everyone my work cell phone number. It
Mm.
was on my door. When there were assemblies, I had the kiddos pull their phones out and plug me in as a contact, because I said, I need you to know that if you are ever in crisis and you feel as if you're alone or have no one to talk to, or that nobody understands you, or you see something that bothers you and you don't know who to call
Right.
me. And it could be at 3 o'clock in the morning. It
Mm.
could be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I held myself to a standard that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
When you light your candle from both ends and the middle, and then at the 3/4 points and it's not sustainable. But I loved it so much and I believed in it that I did it as long as I possibly could.
Right. I really appreciate you saying that because that's something that I see with a lot of the individuals that I work with. And so when they come home, because they are burning the candle at both ends, they don't have enough for their kids when they get home or for their spouses. And it causes so many issues. What did you do to overcome that?
I retired.
I-
I say that in jest. The reality is that my students, when I tell them that once my student, always my student, once my kiddo, always my kiddo, some of my kiddos still reach out to me this day and connect with me via social media and still ask me for things. But eventually, I eventually found a hobby that allows me to empty my cup and then refill it with positives
Mhm.
so that I can then get back to work and I can get back into doing what I do best. And it took a really long time for me to find something that really made me happy and calms my mind and recharges my batteries. And as it stands right now, that's what I do to take care of me. So maybe once a week, maybe on weekends, I'll get out for my hobby and just be me, allow myself to be me.
What is that hobby? I'm very interested.
Okay, it's going to sound so silly, but I like to go sea glassing and mudlarking.
No,
And
I love that. That's so cool. Very creative.
so you can find me on most weekends or any opportunity that I get walking along a creek, a river, the ocean, basically looking for trash, as silly as that seems, but it's something that I find beautiful or historic. And when glass is broken, and we're just talking regular, normal glass, and it finds its way to the water and it gets tumbled by the waves and by other rocks and sand and salt water, it forms these beautiful little nuggets, these little gems. And it's it was trash at one point, and now it's just a treasure to me. And that's what makes me happy and quiets my mind.
Well, that says a lot about your heart, but symbolically, what we're doing, and this is just how we operate as people, there's a lot of things that we're doing, whether we're projecting them or we need to heal them, or we have an interest in them, that they're examples, like it's a metaphor, right? And so if you need to use this skill, and this is something innate in you, and you find fulfillment in picking up what looks like trash to others, but you see something beautiful in it, and then you piece it together, you morph it, and you actually turn it into something glorious, right? Like it's a piece of art. What you're doing is, quote unquote, like the metaphor, you're fixing it. You find something that is broken or missing pieces, you put it together, and you build something beautiful. So you're
I
still doing the same thing. It's just not towards people. We're not saving, so but you're still using the gift.
I love that you say that because I feel like you are describing the mosaic that's over my shoulder that sits behind me in my office. This mosaic that I pieced together is comprised of broken pieces of what was called wire glass. And in the 1950s, it was used in schools. You know that glass that has the wires in the middle that's supposed to make the glass that much safer and more secure. It turns out it didn't actually do that. But to me, that is a visual representation of my obligation to keep schools safe. And I found all those pieces of glass, I pieced them back together, and they're so very meaningful to me because not only do I live my life in this world, but this is just a visual representation that whenever I forget, I can look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's my why.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think a lot of, whether they're business owners or high performing professionals, we tend to overwork and there's a reason. And if we figure out what that reason is, then we can start saying no, like you said, and then we can redirect and utilize those gifts, whatever's trying to come out of us in a completely different way that is transformative and useful, but not draining, and it takes a lot of self-reflection to do that.
It does. It does. And oftentimes I find that instead of being introspective and fixing the figurative things that are wrong with me, I tend to occupy myself with work. So I'll take on another project. I'll engage in more research. I'll present at another facility. I'll write another article. I'll write another book. I'll travel and try to eh, eh, I'll try anything.
When you say you'll try anything, like there's so many reasons that keep us busy. And until we stop to see, like, okay, well, what am I running from? Why do I always have to stay busy, right? Well, there's a thing that inside of us, this is what I personally believe, needs to get out. And until we find that place to be able to utilize that skill, I think they're gifts, though they're resources, but it's a gift that we were innately born with, then it's going to be trying to come out in several different ways. But I think, and I would love your opinion on this, there's also part of us that needs to keep going and rushing and being busy and being distracted because we're trying to escape the things inside us that we need to work on, right? So that it's kind of like the gift gets blurred and it's like covered with all the things, right? Because we're staying busy. What's your opinion?
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And for me, it's chasing. When I said that I would do anything, the reason why I phrase it that way is that I'm constantly chasing opportunities.
Yeah.
I have the fortunate background of 26 years in law enforcement, a doctoral degree. I'm educated and articulate, not to put myself out there, but that means that I have a really unique perspective. I can talk to students, I can talk to superintendents, I can talk to parents, I can talk to law enforcement. So give me the avenue where I can promote the good work of school resource officers and the importance of school safety, and I'll take it. If it means showing up at a PTA meeting, a church group, a superintendent's conference, or an international opportunity where I can target a new audience, I'm going to jump at that opportunity because the more you know about who we are and how we're trained, and if you understand and realize that I am representative of this larger organization, you will be more inclined to be receptive and accept the help that may not be something you ever would have considered as a parent, as an administrator, or as a community member.
So what do you think that your mission, like that thing that's trying to come out, that's being spoken, you're doing so many different things and there's one main component, it's the gift, right? Like what is it that you're bringing to the world, especially through your public speaking?
My heart. It's easy when it's natural. I don't have to fake it.
Mm.
But those of us who decided to get into law enforcement most likely did so because they wanted to help people.
Yeah.
But that's not what policing is about most often.
Mm.
And it wasn't until, like I said, I assumed that role that I realized that's where we can do the good. So the critics who say we have to get cops out of our schools because we have to protect our children from these big bad monsters, they don't know who we are. And
Yeah.
I'm one of, say, 20,000 across the country who love our kids in a totally appropriate way and interact with them every day because our kiddos deserve to be safe. They
Absolutely.
deserve to be supported. They deserve to be educated. They deserve the opportunity to succeed.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that you are speaking from your heart because you're advocating not only for the students and their safety, but also for the officers that are there with their hearts in their job, trying to do this because there's a lot of, issues in the community that make people look at officers. It's a stereotype that's kind of been put on them, which is actually very unfair because as a community leader, it takes a lot of we put a lot of pressure on them to always be the one who has it together, always be the tough one. But then I've seen them get ridiculed for the decisions that they're making under extremely difficult circumstances. So it's really to me unfair to blame the person in charge when they're the ones protecting everybody and taking care because you have no idea what that feels like until you're the one in the situation.
Listen, none of us like a stereotype. And the unfortunate thing is that we have to work extra hard to negate those negative stereotypes. And I could have 100 positive interactions with the community, but one police officer has one negative interaction, all of those 100 positives get wiped out. And it
Right.
makes our jobs that much harder. But replace police officer with any other industry, replace the stereotype with anyone else. And we just have to work extra hard to negate those so that we can showcase the positive.
Absolutely. So I think I see this a lot actually because when I used to do therapy for the 15 years, I saw cops, I saw nurses, teachers, executives, um, teenagers, kiddos, and couples, parents, like all of the different people, right? So I was very blessed to see things from so many different perspectives. It really taught me a lot about, well, maybe we should just not have any stereotypes because really it's putting people in a box, and sometimes most of the time they want to break out of that, but our perspective of them also keeps them stuck in it because we're saying no, 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 you haven't changed, you're not different, you're not trying, right? So one stereotype that I've seen with kiddos is that they are all attention seeking, right? What do you think about that?
I don't know that. Well, first of all, if you say all at any time, I'm going to be skeptical of it. But I think what you're going to find is that our kiddos are just trying to figure out who they want to be. They're going through that period of adolescence to figure out what's important to them, what matters. And I think if we were to break it down, first of all, and to remind ourselves what we were like at that age group, we
Yeah.
would find a lot more similarities than you'd believe. And you know what? Guess what? I can still relate to teenagers because I have a ton of insecurities. Guess what? I deal with anxiety. Guess what? I have bouts of depression. Guess what? I soothe myself with eating. Sometimes when I'm sad and I just want to wear ugly sweatpants and stained t-shirts, I'll DoorDash McDonald's. Okay? It's something that we can relate to. Actually, I don't DoorDash McDonald's because I want my French fries and I don't want anyone else eating my French fries.
Right.
But you know what? We share an awful lot, and you won't know that until you make yourself vulnerable and you're willing to share some of your own insecurities and some of your own quirks and flaws. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes every day. I've made a half dozen at least today, and it's not even noon yet.
I really appreciate you saying that because a lot of the parents that I've worked with in the past and then presently as business owners, we try to act like we have it all together. And I think the second we realize, I'm done trying to act like it, I'm done faking it. I'm not perfect, guys, and I'm not gonna be perfect, and that's okay, right? Then a lot of the pressure decreases, and all of a sudden things aren't as stressful because we're not trying to act like we have it all together.
It's such a relief. It's such a weight off of our shoulders. And that's us as fully functioning, capable adults. Imagine that pressure release for a kiddo who's
Mm,
focusing on other things, who wants to make sure that they don't get a pimple before a big event, who wants to make sure that they get asked to a dance, who wants to make sure that they don't fart while giving a presentation in front of the class. These are major stressors for our kiddos.
absolutely. And it's real to them. It's very real. And that's one thing that I've always believed, but then working with the individuals that I have and advocating for the emotions, right? Like somebody needs to stand up and say that's okay. It might be completely irrational and not make any sense and not affect them 20 years from now. Who cares? The emotion is very, very real because it's actually in their body. And when somebody feels something, it needs to be seen and allowed and validated. And then it soothes, and then they can see it from a different perspective. But when we suppress that, then it actually keeps them from being able to see it from a different perspective. And that's where traumas come from, is when emotions or situations are too much for us to handle, and then they've been suppressed and shut down in our system.
You said that in a very eloquent manner.
Thank you. Thank you. That's my space is talking about trauma. But what's really sad actually, and a lot of people don't understand this, is physical sexual violent traumas, they heal much faster in our nervous system. emotional and psychological traumas like farting in your class when you're trying to give a presentation, that could stay with you forever because you're thinking, oh, that wasn't a trauma. At the time, if your emotions weren't validated and if you were embarrassed, that created shame and it could have been embedded in your system. And so that might keep you from ever giving a presentation again, but we never think about it like that, right? And it really is. So the emotions are extremely validated or valid, and they should be validated regardless of the situation. And a lot of them happen during our teen and adolescent years.
Yeah, wow. I never looked at it from that perspective, but you're so right because I can draw a parallel to seeing some of my kiddos who have these experiences that for anyone else around them are just one off, already forgotten about before something else happens, and yet to them it sticks with them. And I'm picturing this one student in particular, this through my lenses, through my eyes, this beautiful girl. She was getting ready to graduate, 18 years old, and she came into my office the one day and she said, because I had heard that she had been eating lunch in the bathroom by herself.
Mhm.
And she says, I feel like I'm too old to make friends. And I don't have any friends. And so I just decided to hide out on my own. And I said, absolutely not. Not another day. That's not going to happen. I said, first off, you'll sit and you'll have lunch with me and we'll get to talk. But then the more I got to find out what caused that, the why behind the behavior, I was able to help try to connect her because it it breaks my heart to hear an 18-year-old beautiful girl sit there and say, I think I'm too old to make friends because here I am at 50 years old. And I believe I've said the exact same thing in the last few weeks. I don't know how to make friends and I feel like I'm too old for friends. And it brings me back to practicing what I preach to say, you know what? You're not too old. You know what? You can put yourself out there. You know what? You can text a new friend
Yeah.
and just say hi and check in.
Yes, you absolutely can. And I love that you bring that up. And this is right in time because we are about to end. And I think the majority of the people don't realize how our brain does that. We have mirror neurons in our brain, and what there's pieces of our awareness that are using the external world to teach us, but they also, and so they absorb what they see and experience, and they integrate them into our system, whether good or bad, but it also uses it as a healing mechanism. The things we see outside of us, they're also experiences inside that need to be integrated and healed. And so this is why we work in the environments that we do, or we, date the people that we do, or we see insecurities in our children as parents. If it really gets to you, like it's for a reason. Your system's speaking to you because that needs to be healed, not only externally in the world, but also inside you. And this is how we all operate as human beings because this is what's creating our reality. It says a lot about you that you saw her and you wanted to go be a friend to her, you know?
How could you not?
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree. So, before we end, if there was one thing that you could leave with the community to know about what you do, what your mission is, and what we need to provide maybe for the school system and our students, what would that be?
Wow. I would say vulnerability, but that's so it simplifies. It overly simplifies. I would say be receptive, be willing to talk, meet a police officer, meet a school resource officer, smile, shake a hand, and don't ever say, "Oh, you probably wouldn't know my kiddo. They don't get in trouble."
Mhm.
Because those are the kiddos that we do get to meet. We get to spend our time with all of our kids. If you don't have a school resource officer in your area, talk with your school district, talk with your local law enforcement, and learn a little bit about this position and all of the great work that they do. Because again, all of our kiddos deserve to be safe. They deserve to be supported and protected so that they can grow and learn and then take care of us when we get older.
And I would also like to add to be better than us.
right? Just like we want to generally try to be better than our parents. If we teach our children, they can be better than us, and then they can teach their children. And we're all
That's
just trying to get better.
amazing.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was the best.
Thank you so much for joining. Your time and your focus are your most valuable currencies, so thank you for giving that to us today. Our guest contact information will be in the description below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But please, if you know someone who's struggling, stop right now and send this video to them. The struggle behind growth and success is real, and they need the support to make it, because the strongest minds are the ones that healed. So don't forget, lead louder, feel deeper, and stay resilient. Until next time, this is your host, Dr. Campbell, on the Resilient Minds podcast.